I was just telling you that we can talk forever and we should get started, right? So maybe we'll get started because we can talk forever, and that's what we're doing. We are talking forever. Hey, Paul, how are you? Happy Monday.
Happy
Move to the
Monday.
side. Move like.
I know. What's that all about?
I,
I didn't think I was. I feel like I'm. What's going on?
I don't know. Square yourself. There you go. Thank you.
Yeah. Square yourself.
Square yourself, guys. We
Where,
are in Monday Musing
who
right here.
says that? Who says square yourself?
And
What is that
Israeli.
even?
And
All
Israeli.
right.
Yeah. So you know what's funny? I was talking to two Israelis today about their new software. And one of them is holding the laptop and both of them are trying to be in the frame and she keeps moving the laptop a little bit so he's always out of the frame. And he goes like, "Why do you keep getting me out of the frame?" Right? And so it becomes a little joke and I was like, this is the difference between Israelis and Americans because an American will like slowly try to get themselves into the frame and not say anything. Where an Israeli will grab the laptop, be like, "Dude, why am I not in the frame?" And I was like, "Oh, I'm home."
That's nice. All right.
Right? We're just saying it as it is. So, hello everyone watching us. Welcome to Monday Musing. We have a lot to talk about today.
We do have a lot. We have like the biggest Monday rundown we've ever had. I'm kind of
No, we're
impressed.
just gonna
I hope
start
we
it.
can fit it all. We'll have to be disciplined in our conversation. All right, let's
We
go.
do. Okay, so this is what we're doing. Paul forgot to say the changing
Oh,
landscape.
the changing landscape.
Okay, let's do it again.
I forget. I am not
Okay,
where
let's do
I'm
it
not
again.
used. We're
Let's
do it again. All
Yeah,
right, we'll do it again.
we'll
Go.
do it again. Hold on.
That was a little too relaxed. I have to work on that.
Yeah, you do.
We'll
Yeah.
try. Every week I'll try a different voice,
And
and
we'll
folks
see
can
which one
vote
you
on which
guys like.
one is the one they like.
There you go. So the first one we are talking about is the education. Paul has been bringing up education all along, talking about how education is changing. We're moving into virtual campuses, right? And how
Lock.
some universities are going to become more profitable and how some will disappear because of the connections with tech companies. And so this is the latest where UT Austin will likely bring
Your hometown.
my hometown, my tower, layoffs, and they're getting out to a second wave of cuts brought on by the coronavirus.
Only gonna keep happening.
Only going to
We're
keep
just
happening.
getting started, gang. I'm telling you, we're just getting started.
It's really interesting. By the way, if you guys want links to all these articles, this is it, right? TheNakedTruth.com/live. You can see all the links right here. So, universities, cuts, layoffs.
Universities. It's again, we think of universities as like not-for-profit institutions, but ultimately they have to run like a business, right? And there's gonna be just a lot of different ways in which anything that's run as a business is suffering for a while we get this stuff sorted out.
Yeah, and so it'll be very interesting because UT is like very big on business, right? The business school at UT is one of the most coveted.
Oh, I
Uh,
didn't know that.
yeah, apparently. So apparently, from what I heard while I was at UT, the business school is
That's what
the.
they kept telling me anyway. Maybe they just wanted me to be happy I was there.
I know, right? Go horn. Matthew McConaughey will tell you UT
Yeah, all
business
right,
is
all
the.
right, all right.
Gotta say that. So it'll be very interesting how they pivot, right? And if they pivot and how they pivot and what they're gonna do, how that works. Speaking of how to change things, New Zealand is talking about why not create internal tourism because people cannot fly into the country. Then their prime minister says maybe what we should do is have 4 day working week so that New Zealanders can start traveling within the country and spending time back into domestic tourism.
All right, I'm just gonna
And
tell you, I like this lady.
why?
Like, nobody's perfect, right? And one of the weird things about our culture is I think we always expect our governmental leaders and stuff and our celebrities and everything to be perfect. And I'm sure she's not perfect because she's human, but she just keeps, she seems like she's really being a leader, you know, and she's
Yeah.
not just sitting around pointing blame at other people. She's working on like, how do I fix things for my people and make things better? And looking at doing things differently is going to be part of that process,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah. And why not have internal tourism? Right? I mean, like, why do we have to fly all over and put our money in different countries as we travel? Why not actually? I mean, it's a vast universe.
Yeah.
My sister told my son's dad, she goes like, now you know more of Israel than I do because every time we go to Israel, we actually travel. And why don't you, an Israeli born, know your country? It's this big. Um, right? But we don't. And there's so many people in Austin
Right.
that have never
Yeah.
left Austin. So,
Yeah, it gets real easy to take for granted everything that's around you, and you just think you want to go out and see the rest of the world, right? And
yeah.
meanwhile, there's always something interesting right around home. Yeah.
And so when I was interviewing Philip Stutz and he was talking about the consumer behavior, he said there's a twist in the new report. And the twist is that people want to support local businesses more. So your
Right.
messaging has to be more local. And it's a fantastic way to kind of like revive the economy while supporting local businesses.
Yep. Absolutely.
So,
Absolutely. And if there isn't something that we can all get behind right now, like if that isn't something that we can all get behind, you do it, why would we,
yeah,
let's help one another, you know, like
yeah,
we can't fix everyone's problems, but we can start doing something that's thoughtful. And that would be a great thing to start doing, is all thinking about how we can support at the local level and then expand from there, you know?
yeah.
Yeah.
Um, Speaking of which, I live in Austin. All Austin, businesses support my local business. Let's support our business. Coming to the withthenakedtruth.com/live. Click on the donation button and let us know how much you love supporting
We
local
don't have a,
businesses.
do we
We
have a
don't.
donate? We don't have a donation button.
We don't.
You're scaring
We
me
should.
now. Come on.
It would be nice.
What's next? What else?
What's next? Facebook, always coming with a twist, don't they? So Facebook is saying we'll allow you permanently to work from home,
There's a
but
but?
but if you work from home, we will reduce your pay for a lot.
Oh,
Because they're like, oh, now you don't have to pay Silicon Valley fees, so why would we pay you a lot to live in Silicon Valley? So,
right.
which is why do you come into my finances and decide how much I'm gonna spend on housing, food, transportation, and stuff like that? It's not,
Yeah.
you're paying me for my work. Why does it matter to you where I work from?
Right.
And so,
Right.
yep,
That's
there's a
it.
twist.
Yeah, we could, boy, you could go, that could be a long, long episode all on its own, right? Looking at that. I mean, I'm sure there are some good arguments for their side of it, but at the same time, I'm like, I need to
I
think
don't,
about that one
yeah,
for
I
a
don't
bit.
see a good argument for it. Uh,
Well, I mean, if I try to be objective, right? And I
yep.
think about their side, I'm like, okay, but clearly they must be incurring some costs when they have people working at the office. And so they might be saying, like, isn't it possible that if now you're leaving them in a lurch, at least in the short term, like they've got leases and buildings and things, and they're saying, well, if you don't work here, you work at home, fine, but then we're stuck still probably paying for some stuff, and I don't know. I'm just trying to get my head around it. I have no
No, it's not.
idea.
It's not because of how much it costs them to maintain anything. And come on, it's Facebook. What does it cost you to maintain anything? Um,
Well, again, I would never, just because they say it's one thing doesn't mean that's what it is. So that's what I'm trying to think beyond what they say it is to what it really might be, kind of. I don't know.
Yeah, so Michael O'Reilly said, I looked up into it, and now I have more disagreement with Facebook's suggested implementation of this. They aren't talking about reducing a little bit to offset reduced cost of commuting to work, but significant reductions based on the cost of living in local areas. So which means that it's not about you not coming to the office. If you don't live in Silicon Valley and you have a reduced cost of living, we're gonna pay you based on your existing cost of living. And that is not cool.
Well, wait, though. Don't you think businesses have always had to do that? Like if you know, like aren't there businesses that live in businesses that are in affluent places that have always had to say, if we're going to attract workers, they're going to live here and have a higher cost of living, so we have to pay them more? Like Facebook isn't new in that
No,
way.
but okay, so here's the thing. So let's say I hire you, Paul, and I hire you for $50 an hour, right?
Yeah.
That's my cost, $50 an hour. And now you go like, okay, that's what I make. I make $2,000 a month, right? And you're
Yeah.
like, well, $2,000 a month is not gonna help me. I can't live very well in California, so I'm gonna take my $2,000 a month and move to Austin and reduce my cost of living so I have more. And I say, well, now that you're in Austin, your cost of living is not that high, so I'm going to reduce it from 2,000 to 1,500 because now you live in a.
So again, so like my first reaction is that's shitty.
Yeah.
But I think it is a real factor that we as employees don't usually think about, that when we go to work at a place, part of what they are doing is basing our salaries on like where we would be working for them and what our cost of living is at that place. That's always been.
No, but like you can't say my contract with you is $50 an hour. Now because you chose to live in Costa Rica and the rent is cheaper, I'm going to change it based on where you live. So you can be like, okay, fine, I'm living in New York, pay me $70 an hour.
Right. So
But you would say no because I didn't tell you to go
that's
to
what's
New York.
weird about this change, though, is that before that, what I'm saying is there is a precedent that I think a lot of people completely don't think about. I think businesses have done that forever, pretty much, and it wasn't really discussed. And now that you're fundamentally looking at changing how employees commute or live or don't live near their work, you're breaking the model. And so I'm just saying, I get how they would have an instinct to stay within that assessment. I'm just trying to see it both ways for the sake of figuring it all out. Like, still, my first instinct is that's shitty because I think it should be you get paid for the work you do, not for where you live. Yeah, I get you there.
Unless you start financing housing and food and all that stuff, and that becomes a utility and has nothing to do with the salary, right? So like, okay, we're gonna give you housing allowance and food allowance and all that stuff because you live in here, and blah blah, and your salary is X. But if anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Again, just another sign of how things really are. Like we've been saying this, right? Like things are not going to just go back to the way they were. Things are changing in some pretty fundamental ways, and it's only just really starting. So that's the thing to keep really trying to keep your ear to the ground about.
Yeah. And Jay Nathan says, you have to pay for the value an employee provides. I totally agree with that. That is it, right? So you're not bringing people based. You're not paying people based on where they live, right? So here's what I'm thinking. It's if I have someone in the Philippines, right?
Yep.
And I pay them $5 an hour, right? Because they're in the Philippines. To them, those $5 an hour is like $50 an hour. I don't know. I'm saying, right? And so they're willing to work for that. So for me, it's cheaper, but for them, it's equal and more to what they're getting paid. Does that make sense?
That doesn't make sense to me. Actually, it feels like you just argued against yourself because I'm like, but you're paying them like if the value of the work is $15 an hour, why don't you pay it to the Philippines people just like you would here to someone who lived in the States?
So
like you're rationalizing the decrease based on what you know about the economy
but
they
here's
live
what
in.
I'm saying, right? So if I'm paying someone in the Philippines $5 an hour, for their job, right? Why are you laughing?
Because I'm like, you can hold on me all you want. You're backwards on this one. Like you're going, no matter what you say, you can't say we pay you for the work and then try to rationalize why you now are paying someone in the Philippines way less than you would pay for the same work here in the United States. It goes completely against what you just said. There's no way around it.
So hold on.
There's no way around it.
It's gonna
like you just sandbagged yourself. Like
if I'm paying someone in the Philippines $5 an hour, right? And then that person says, I am now moving to Austin and you need to pay me $20 an hour because it cost me more. And I say, no, I'm willing to pay $5 an hour for this task. So I'm not going to pay you for that task $5.
No, because look at what you're doing. You're basically, oh my God. Like, you imagine if you had an employee right now
Yeah.
who lived in Austin and you paid them $20 an hour and then they moved to the
I
Philippines.
still have to pay
Would you,
them $20 an hour.
huh?
I still have to pay them $20 an hour.
Okay. So,
Right. So I don't care where you live, right? I pay you for the skill that you bring to the table. If you
but
live,
apparently you don't, because you're saying you'd be okay with paying the people in the Philippines $5 an
I won't
hour.
because it's not going to be the value of the same work, right? That's what I'm saying. It's like I can't hire someone there. I I
How is the
cannot.
work not the same?
No, I pay for the value of the work, right? So if that work is worth $20 an hour, right?
Yep.
If you
Yep.
choose, if you're an American and you choose to move to the Philippines, I have to still pay you $20 an hour.
Okay.
So
Yep.
that's all I'm saying. So I can't be
But if they're
like,
Filipino, you don't.
no, but if so if it no, but if they provide the same value of work as an American does, right? Then I
Yeah.
have to pay them as much as I would pay an American.
No, that's not. You're not. No. Oh my gosh. All right. We're. This is getting dangerous. Let's move on. Let's move on, and we'll all reflect on this and maybe come back to it later, but probably not.
Paul is like, I don't want to screw you on live TV. I appreciate that. All right. So our next one. So hold on a second. So Miguel says, good discussion. The marketplace, which includes cost of living, salary, wages, is almost always determined by where people live. Employees would be paid differently than contractors. That is also true. They will be paid differently than contractors.
Yep.
Speaking of which, guys, if you want to hop in and have those conversations in real time and be nice as Paul is, I might do. So this is the link, bethenakedtruth.com/live.
What's next?
What's next? Chefs. Chefs
Chefs?
are stabilized.
I love chefs. I think they're great.
Yeah, me too. I want one.
What are they doing?
I believe you shared this one where they're
No.
stabilizing, wages and cutting out tips.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. I wasn't thinking of it as chefs. I was thinking of it as all food service workers when I first sent it to you. So what this is looking at, again, fundamental changes here in the United States, unlike some other parts of the world. If you go to a restaurant, what do? You pay for your meal and then you have a gratuity. And now with so many food service workers working at restaurants where basically they're having to do takeout all day, their gratuities are going down because people feel like, well, you didn't serve me at a table. So people are giving like these minimal gratuities, really minimal or not at all. So it's making the restaurant owners look at like, do we need to have just a shift to what other people in other countries have done for years, which is if you do business with us, we charge you for the food and there is no gratuity. We price it into the food service.
Yep.
And then taking that and shifting it to where you say, all right, you don't work for tips anymore. You get paid a flat hourly wage to work for us, and we just pay you a flat hourly wage. It would be a huge cultural shift for food service workers in America. I think
Now, here's the question. Do they want the shift? Because most of them don't report the tips and they make more under
That's
the table.
exactly. There would probably be a lot of food service workers who actually wouldn't want this to happen because their instinct is going to be that they will, even though it would be happening to protect them in this situation, they probably would be like, but we won't be able to go back, and long term I'll make less money.
Right.
Like, because that's the reality is a lot of food service workers are not reporting, either are not reporting at all or are not fully reporting their tips.
Right. Yeah. It's really fascinating, right? It's also fascinating to me, like when they started with the stimulus checks, and I'm like, okay, so if you're a Republican, you're not gonna accept the check because you don't want government support, right? It's all capitalism, but everybody wants the government to jump in when shit goes bad, and then when it's great, it's like, I don't want that stuff.
Yeah.
So
that's been a long-term human behavior. Like you'll see a lot of the same elected officials who voted against disaster relief in situations when their state finally has the disaster, they want the disaster relief.
Right.
Like, yeah, that's nothing new.
So Holly Jackson says, I love that there is an actual debate on this show. So refreshing. You two have great chemistry. I'm really interested to see how pay changes now that the new normal is going to be so different. And she agrees with Jay Nathan, who says, yeah, you have to pay the value that the employee provides. This is really great because we're going to have a lot of people who are thinking differently about these things.
You're
And,
gonna have to. It's just
yeah,
like, again, like we all have to start. This could be one of the great silver linings of this terrible situation is
right.
that human beings are forced to stop being entrenched in old ways of thinking, right?
Yeah,
Like people who
yeah,
just don't want to put in the mental effort or go through the discomfort of expanding into new and different models of thought and models of living. Don't get a choice anymore. like,
right.
like
This is it.
pandemic,
Yeah,
figure it out or you're in big shit,
that's
like,
true.
yeah.
Yeah. Miguel says the post COVID 19 economy will force all companies and employees to shift and pivot their thinking. Yes, exactly. And Alona from Twitter says the new normal. It's really funny, right? When you think about normal and then new normal. Like, how does the normal becomes new normal? Like what's
Yeah,
normal?
it's sort
Like,
of
it's not
us
moral.
trying to use language to convey an inexact idea, sort of a weird
Yeah.
idea. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
And so here's another very interesting fact. Most roughly half of the Twitter accounts, how do I remove this damn thing? Damn thing. There we go.
They're gone. Boom.
Gone. Almost. Yeah. Roughly half the Twitter accounts pushing to reopen America are bots. This is very, very, very interesting because we shape our opinion based on what we read online, just like we're sharing with you right now what we're reading online. And if, what we're reading online is really bot activities and it's not the general notion, now we are shaping our opinion based on bots activities, which makes it super, super hard. Like, look at this 200 million tweets, 200 million are all by bots. And it's unclear who's behind the search of the bot activity, whether they're originated in the States or abroad. So to me, it's very weird,
So
right?
can I wait? Stop. Can I just? I don't understand. Can you explain this to me? How can that be? Why can't Twitter and these other companies? Why can't they make it so that they can tell where that stuff comes from?
Oh, because you can have VPNs and you can mask your IP and you can point it to different directions. So uh, you can use
Seems like there should be a way. This is how
that.
where
That's
I
the
like
whole.
to think.
But that's the whole idea of a VPN. A VPN
Yeah.
masks your IP to not show where you're coming from, so that you can hide, so that you cannot be tracked, right? So people who don't want to be tracked, right? Like, I don't want my ISP tracking me. I can use a VPN and show that I'm in Israel or in Europe or in a different city, and now you don't know where the activity is coming from. So that's why it's hard. Why can they not? Why, if these researchers can find out 200 million bots, why doesn't Twitter notice the bots and bring them down? That's a question.
There you go. This see, like that's what I'm really getting at. Can't we just put in some effort to like
So
not
here's
let
the
this?
problem, right? The problem is this: you have a lot of tools and a lot of marketers and a lot of companies who want to automate stuff, right? So in order to automate stuff, you have to open your API, which is a way to connect one software to another, and schedule, post, and all that stuff. So if you're opening up your API to Hootsuite or Jarvee or any other of those social scheduling apps, then you allow other softwares to come into your system and automatically do stuff. And the idea is that you want to make it easy on your users to work and schedule, but
Right.
you get the bots as well. And so what a lot of what LinkedIn is doing very, very well, they're noticing, they're like, how quickly are you posting? If you're posting too quickly, you're automating, we lock your account. So there are
Ooh,
ways to do that.
nice.
Which make it very sucky for us. So then there are software who go like, okay, we're not going to post every 2 seconds to make it
They
look like
just
it's
it's a game,
automated.
right? Then they just adjust to the game. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it could help at least. New idea.
Yeah.
If we were going to form a rock band right now during the pandemic, would we call our rock band the new normal? Or since we're talking about techie stuff, would it be cooler to have a rock band called Open API?
The VPN
The
of
VPN.
the
This is what we.
VPN.
There should be a. We need one of those like rock band name generators for just the things that we discuss in this show. Because I
Very
keep hearing you
new.
say these things. I'm like, that'd be a cool name for a rock band.
So VPN, very new normal, very normal, very normal people, very normal people. This is the very normal people. Um, and so the next one, this is something that we were talking about at the beginning of our broadcasting. How can some people take an advantage of the pandemic and what's going on and actually grow their businesses? And finally, there's some data to back up what you and I were saying from the beginning. Fantastic.
Right. Always nice. We have some data that shows us we
That you're
actually
right.
know what we're talking about instead of us just speculating.
Exactly. You should pay me yeah. So it's tough out there, but some small businesses have prospered. Cleaning companies are doing very, very, very well
I
during
bet.
this pandemic. Hand sanitizers are doing very, very well during this pandemic. And there's reported comeback in drive-in movie theater, which is very interesting.
Right. We had mentioned that in an earlier episode. Yep.
Yeah. So there's drive-in theaters, cleaning companies, not
Food
touching your
delivery
face, delivery
services.
services. That's it. So if you guys want to read this article, it's actually very encouraging. You know where to go. BeTheNakedTruth.com/live. And you can see everything. Speaking of which, one of your friends have had their entire business wiped.
So proud of him, my friend Johnny Kelly. Oh my gosh! So my buddy Johnny Kelly has been a DJ. He's owned his own entertainment company. Not the way you usually think of DJs, though. Johnny has a total entertainment experience. He'll come in and he will be the master of ceremonies. He'll have a DJ. He'll have backup dancers. He'll have photo booths. Like he will turn your bar mitzvah or your wedding into like just this incredibly hype, fun experience. Amazing, right? And he had specialized for a long time in high-end bar mitzvahs and high-end weddings. And he was crushing it. Like everybody in our area knows Johnny K. Like he's the guy if you're going to have an event like that. Well, like the rest of us who are gig oriented, right? We've talked about this.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, you can't put, 50, 60, 70, 100 people in a room to celebrate a bar mitzvah or a wedding right now. You just can't do it. So his business basically evaporated.
Right.
But Johnny, one of the things I love about him, he is constantly thinking of new ideas and cool things. And so he started the Yard Card Company. So he started doing this idea of like sending someone a greeting card that's so big it has to go on their yard. Like he has a whole warehouse where he has different tools and stuff that he would make stuff for his events. He started making these large printed, beautiful. I mean, the quality, look how colorful and vibrant they are. Amazing. And right now he's also like, they deliver them and set them up for you. They don't just drop ship them to you. So that's where if you're watching this outside of Massachusetts, make sure you reach out to Johnny if you want this, work out some kind of a shipping arrangement. Because right now what they've been doing is they go to the people's houses and set it up for them. They're doing birthdays, they're doing graduations, anniversaries, all that kind of stuff. And people are loving it. He even has some stuff where they set it up like lighting so that it's lit up at night. So that it's like you get maximum enjoyment from it when people are.
And you can see how they print the whole thing.
Yeah.
Like a thing. So here's the interesting part about this thing. This is a franchise, and anyone can do this. So you can, for $1,000, open a franchise of these signs and do exactly what Johnny did. You can pivot to something that people like. What you'll need to know, though, is a little bit of marketing.
Yeah, and that's where, again, Johnny has he's been in business so long. He has a big customer base, right? He has people that he knows will be having these kind of events. And so again, what I'm just proud of him for is he didn't sit around and go, all right, I guess I'm just gonna have to wait until we can do bar mitzvahs and weddings again. He was like, no, we can do something that helps people right now. We can help people be cheery. We can help people celebrate. And so he started reaching out to his people and making it happen. And he's keeping himself busy, and he's got revenue coming in, and he's doing awesome.
That's fantastic. I love that. We're seeing so many ways that people pivot, right? Pivot and adapt and actually thrive. And I saw like what my neighbor down the road has a celebration. A lot of people doing it for their graduates, right?
Yeah.
Kids lost their graduation thing, which is
it's a bummer. Yeah. I mean, in the grand scheme of life, it's not going to ruin their lives, but there are milestones in life that you just think are the ones that you're supposed to have, right? You think you're supposed to walk with your friends and turn your caps and all that kind of stuff. And so when you have a life milestone like that you feel like you missed out on, it's hard, you know.
So all our neighborhood now has signs of like graduation, I graduate, and congratulations and stuff. It's really cool. Our neighbor has a Jeep, like a pretty massive Jeep, and every weekend we see them. You laughing, but I'm like, the Jeep is like way higher than I am.
It's all jacked up and everything, yeah.
and every weekend we see them like in a bunch of Jeeps coming together and just driving with like someone's birthday or someone's graduation or something like that, which is really cool. Kind of like the drive-in movies, I guess, right? We're driving to the movie, and so now you kind of like do a parade of Jeeps.
Yeah, there's a lot of parades happening. It's another thing of like, we all have that choice of we can be afraid or we can shift to like, how do we love one another and help one another? And it's so great to not just get caught up in what the news reports and be in fear mode all the time, and be reminded that there's people out there who are like not going to let it get them, and they just keep finding ways to help and ways to be kind. And it's good for all of us to look for that stuff and be reminded that it's happening too.
Yeah. And speaking of pivoting, you and I started this show just after the pandemic, right? You see, mine too. Like I have this
pivoting
thingy. Yeah, I know, but we're like our next,
too much chair time. I got to pop my neck. I have to pop it. I can't go to the chiropractor because anyway. So
I actually went playing tennis with my son, and he throws the ball so high, so I jump, and I think that's what. So it's not really playing tennis; it's him hitting the ball and me running. It's a new form of tennis. But we just launched our show, and we launched our website. What, a week ago? Last week?
A week ago today.
A week ago today, we launched our website. And we're looking at Google Analytics when we're seeing like really awesome, surprising data. And so tomorrow, that's what we're going to do on Tools Tuesday. We're going to move the curtain, unveil the curtain to show you the curtain behind the curtain.
If Fat's going to move the curtain, Paul's going to watch and ask stupid questions, because all these years I still don't really understand Google Analytics.
Yeah. So we're going to show you what our site looks like, completely transparent. And we're going to do that tomorrow, and we decided that we're going to do that once a month to show you how things are changing for us in the Google Analytic realm of things. So if you have any questions, comments, you want to know anything about analytics, what to look for, what does it mean, this is the place for you. Come on in, leave a comment, because on Fridays we're grabbing all the comments and we are putting you in our wheel of names, and you might win something like Rosa did last Friday.
You could.
And
if we get really big, I want to start doing like the Publishers Clearinghouse, where we go to people's houses to give it to them. We just show up the door and we're like,
with a mask.
One on Friday giveaway. No, that'd be really cool, but that's probably not
with a mask and everything, right?
All right, get off the air.
Okay, good. See you later, guys.